isn't your typical motorsports podcast. You're listening to Crush This, a monster truck podcast presented by High Octane Coffee and J Concepts. A show where we take you inside the minds of your favorite drivers, past and present, of the monster truck industry. And now, your hosts, Brad Shaw and Dan Chichagash. Buckle in. The show starts now.
Hey folks, it's Dan Chichagash here. What's going on? Brad is right now spending time with family, and his aunt, uncle came over, spent some time with him. Thank you for everyone. Last week I was gone doing a dealership in Pennsylvania, but thank you to High Octane Coffee, J Concepts, Back Channel Productions, 6B Apparel, Marty Garza's Monster Truck Technology book, and JB Scale Graphics. This episode actually is a Kickin Old School episode presented by Back Channel Productions. Take a look at his videos are coming up. He did a show in Evansville, Indiana at the 4-H fair over there in Evansville. So take a look at that. We had some pretty fun times last weekend. I was at Muncie, Pennsylvania for a dealership car crush with the ride truck. Thank you for all the people that came out. It was pretty cool. Thank you again for everything that you guys have been doing. Next, also want to let you guys know Thursday was supposed to be Brian Loans from NHRA, Fox NHRA, bangshift.com, a couple other promotions, but he had a program during the weekend. He had to go for a NHRA event dealing with, I believe, like pro mods and stuff like that. So we had rescheduled him and replaced the person that we were supposed to have the following week. Thursday was CVH Carl Van Horn. He will be on this Thursday. So CVH will be on this Thursday. Ask questions about his past history, with SIR and driving the Gravedigger, and he even shred some guitar. He did a little gig with Christian Norman for a while, which is pretty cool. So outside of that, folks, I am doing pretty well. And this one is a pretty cool episode. I want to thank Eric. Eric was this is one of a request episode. And, that was pretty cool. I liked. Another request episode we had was from Steve Walker with Jerry. We'll get him. My bad, but we'll get him on too. So this episode, like I said, Eric requested this, and we got this hooked up. He drove one of the most awesome one of the badass Chevrolets on the planet in the 80s and 90s, and he was part of the Monster Wars group, and we'll probably tell some stories about that too. It's none other than Mark Bendler. How you doing today, sir?
Good. How are you guys doing?
I'm hanging in there, enjoying the nice Illinois weather. Political-wise, not very good, but we'll be okay on that. How's everything over in Wisconsin?
Probably the same weather as what you have, but we'll get through it, right?
Right. So let's we'll start off the question: what got you in the monster trucks? Well, a lot of people, we've been finding out a lot that it's either two ways. You saw Bigfoot and you loved it, or you're helping someone else and you got accidentally into the storm or the twister of the so-called monster truck industry, and then you had a hard time basically getting out technically. What was the beginning part of you and forming the Kodiak truck? Yeah,
we'd been to Union Grove a couple times, and King Kong and Barefoot were down there a couple times. This is when they were back on 48s yet, and seen it and thought, yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, in the meantime, I'd gotten in a car accident with my truck, and basically what happened is some kid blew a red light on me, and I was turning in front of him, and he hit me so hard he knocked the rear end right out from underneath the truck. And the bumper was literally laying on the ground. Well, that was the start of it. We put it in the shop. We started doing stuff with it, and it just got built bigger and bigger and bigger. And my uncle had a place at the time. He just had a 2-car garage. We kind of built a ship in a bottle, and we just started working on it. And the monster truck craze thing was coming around, and I was a welder by trade, and we just started building. We really didn't have no blueprint, no nothing for the first truck. We just rolled with it.
So when you came up with the first truck, a lot of people may not ask, who got connected for your first show? Do you remember who was the first one?
Yep. Actually, a guy out of Iowa. He ran a bunch of truck pulls. His name was Bill Schrader, and he ran a bunch of them in the Midwest. He had a really neat deal. You guys probably seen it back in the day. It was a flopper body Chevy 2-wheel drive pull truck with two 427s crank to crank, and it was called the Gambler. And I did a bunch of shows for Bill. He was a good guy, and he was hooked up with a bunch of other truck pull guys out of Iowa. And we did a bunch of stuff for him. He was a good promoter, and he did a show actually not far from you guys, Danville, Illinois. And I'll never forget, he had two big old Chevy Impalas, and all we had to do was roll up over from the trunks to the hood and down, and backed up on him once, and that was it. And I'm like, man, this is pretty easy. And but yeah, that was the first show, and then kind of just took off from there.
So with the history of monster trucks in general, how everything went so fast. And before you know it, the trucks back in the 80s were the most KC lights would win, or the show and shine. When did you start realizing it's time to, when the product became competitive and, car crushing and racing come out? So when did you come with the idea of maybe we need to start building a formidable rate, like a upgraded truck?
Yeah, so we were definitely early on. I would say we were probably one of the first 20 trucks out. And so we went through a couple stages of leaf springers for sure, 3 of them, in fact. And everybody probably that follows any monster truck stuff remember the double stack truck, the double frame truck, the blue frame. And so we went to that. And then, that was kind of a fad, who's the tallest, who's got the, like you say, most lights hanging on it, so on and so forth. And that truck was heavy, and that thing was a bear to haul. We had to have a custom-made trailer that it basically dropped down around the tandems on the trailer. We had to take a light bar off, and even at that, there was a few times I cringed on bridge overpasses. But and then we got into the third truck, really basically, which was still a leaf spring truck, and we built it lighter and everything else, but it was still steel body and whatnot. And then ran that truck for a while. We rolled that truck, actually. We rolled it over at Slinger. And we ended up reskinning it with an 89 body, and did that. And then from there, we proceeded on to the first fiberglass truck, which was still a front engine. I'll be honest with you, really didn't have a whole lot of success with that truck. Although there were some good crash videos with me and Digger from Louisville. I think that still exists out there nowadays. And then Rob came along. Rob and I did a lot of shows together. We were good friends back there. We talked a lot. We did a lot of shows all summer long. Him and I were very fortunate, doing shows for like Rev and whatnot, because he had a ton of shows in Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin. We never had to travel far. We were back home every weekend almost. And so it was really cool. And then he had made the comment that, he had built that new truck and was thinking about selling out. And I said, well, if you're serious about it, whatever. We sat down, we talked about it. We came to agreement on price, and it happened fast. It happened probably within a week and a half.
So let's go back to the double stack truck, because I think a lot of people out may not. Well, let me rephrase the question. I'm getting tongue-tied here. When people see old school photos, they either see a Bigfoot truck, or sometimes they would see your truck on the double stack. Now, was there a possible way, or was there a story behind that you guys were thinking about making the truck run bigger tires than the 66s?
Yeah, I had a couple connections on some 8-footers, and I didn't have any 10-footers, which we would have cleared with that truck with ease. But the deal never panned, and it never came together. And by the time I think something would have come together, we were already shifting gears going forward into that other truck and lightening it up. That truck, that double stack truck, it took a beating. It really did. And the cab went away on it finally. It was getting pretty tore up underneath, and it just it was time to freshen things up. It was funny because the first year I went over to the Hall of Fame, I believe that was 2009, 2010, something like that. Guys were talking about that still, and I had contacted the welding shop that let me build the next truck, because basically we took the double stack truck in there with the blue frame and pulled all the running gear out of it. And we used the axles and some of the drop boxes on the 87 truck. And I left that frame behind, and they had just scrapped it like 2 years earlier. Or I would have grabbed a hold of that frame and got it back and probably done something stupid with it. But it went away, and I'm sure it's ground up. It went down to a place in Milwaukee, and I'm sure it went through the shredder, and it's a memory. You know, who knew back in the day that anybody would be really interested in this old stuff? I never thought there would be any interest in it.
Right. And it's just like, thank you for the Hall of Fame. And Alan Pizzo, he built his Predator truck and stuff like that. But, you know, it's the historians that like to go back and, you know, time and take a look at, because in that type of era, there was so many experiments, kind of like in the world of aviation. You know, you had your time, your traditional airplanes, and then the 50s kicked in, and jets and, you know, experiments and stuff like that came about. There's your buddy Eric right behind you.
I was going to say, look who showed up. We're going to have to, you know, when he goes back to Illinois, we're going to have to quarantine him now.
Oh, geez,
We're going to wrap him in a bubble suit and send him off.
He can hang out here at Champaign. We'll just take off the bubble suit, and he can run around free all day long. So, but still, the times that became that, and well, kind of like the mid to late 80s, there was still experimental stuff going on with the trucks and stuff like that. So let's one question I kind of forgot to ask is, what's the origin of the name Kodiak?
So when we built the truck, we didn't have a name. We didn't have anything picked out. When we went to the first 4-wheel off-road jamboree with the truck, which Eric, he just showed up here. He's sitting in my chair in my office. I think he's going to run the place tomorrow. I'm okay with that. He's kind of rejuvenated Kodiak, and he put a post on the page with the original card when we entered in '84. And thank God my uncle saved all this stuff. My uncle passed away a number of years ago, but I contacted my aunt a while back, and she had a whole photo album. So Eric was like a kid in a candy store with this stuff, and I gave him the whole photo album, and he's got all the photos, and he's been posting stuff on there. But we didn't have a name for the truck. And one of the guys that helped me with it, Steve, his brother Dave came up with the name. And he's like, you know, Kodiak, this is the biggest bear in the north, you know, this, that, and the other thing. And he goes, why don't you put that on it? And because everything was kind of a theme back then. So the name sounded good. We put it on, it stuck, and we ran it ever since.
That's pretty cool. And then, so, you know, racing, I'm jumping all over the place, but it's, you know, like our program goes, we like to talk around the water cooler. And,
Sure.
You know, the first time I ever saw your truck was on television at the Pontiac Silverdome. I think it was in '88.
Yep.
You know, so as a driver and owner, and you saw the transition between show and shine trucks to competitive monster truck racing. As a driver now, did you have to change your mindset now that these trucks are becoming competitive now?
Yeah, I think you had to change your mindset. You know, there was a lot of different stuff and different technology taking place. And I tell you, hats off to Rob. That when I bought that chassis from him, that truck worked really, really good. We made a few changes on it, but not a lot. That truck worked really well. The truck that you've seen, that there's still videos out there with me and Aces High in the final, I just kind of laugh now. I sit back and look, because the guys over in the UK that have it, with obviously it's Big Pete now, I'm thinking most everybody knows that. I look back and I go, that chassis is like 30 some years old, and they're still out there whacking cars with that thing. And I don't think they've changed a whole lot on it. They update springs every year and that, this, that, and the other thing. But the Pettibone axles are original. They contacted me about the transfer case. They're thinking about wanting another spare transfer case. The transfer case is still the same one in there too. So the old girl's hanging together.
Now, I always do like a little bit of a tech question is the story behind the front 4-link setup of a monster truck. You, Predator, obviously barefoot. were pretty popular and famous with the front four link suspension idea. What got you to push forward to that instead of doing the traditional four link?
Well, I think I seen Fred's truck run, and his truck ran awesome. The biggest downfall I had is it was a front engine, and that truck was really, really light. When we got it done, we were at about 8,500 pounds on that truck. It didn't weigh much. We had to throw some weight in the back of it. Problem is that truck was too nose heavy. If you flew it too far, I mean, you could watch that video from Louisville where me and Digger crashed. It was kind of funny because when we did that race, that truck only had maybe 2 or 3 shows on it. And when we were doing that figure 8 race, I knew that when we came into that final turn, I had a shorter turn than he did, and I hadn't flat-footed that motor yet on that thing, and we both laid into it pretty hard. And I didn't know what was going to happen with that truck because we never launched it that hard. And that the rear end wanted to come right over the front. I mean, you guys seen it in the four link dug in. It bent the frame good. It bent it really good. And I'll be honest with you, I never perfected that truck. I didn't like it. It wasn't reliable. We ran it. Obviously, when you're running every weekend, you don't have much time to start on another truck and start building. So when Rob made mention that he wanted to get out of his, I seen how good his worked, and I'm like, yeah, this is a no-brainer. We'll just reskin, put my body on, drop my motor and trans in, and away we go. And so yeah, and the truck worked well, like I say. But yeah, like I say, that old truck was, of all the trucks I had, that fiberglass front engine truck was probably the worst truck I had, and I didn't miss that truck at all. So
yeah. I mean, I think another thing crash of that truck. A lot of people talk about New Orleans '93 when you were taking on Gravedigger.
Yep. And
that it was that giant roundy around where it was like the Daytona monster truck racing right there, and you rolled it that way. Damage that truck wasn't so severe, or was it?
No, it was just the cab. The cab caught it. You know, that was about the end of it. And that, again, you know, there was no rhyme or reason really with a lot of technology. You did what worked, and you know, I've seen many guys. There was a guy that used to come to a show all the time, and he had his camera with him, and he built a truck. And I'm not going to name names. He took hundreds of pictures, and just because you take a picture of a truck doesn't mean you can make it work. I think that I even heard one time the Bigfoot guy say we had 2 identical chassis built, and neither one of them worked the same. But I definitely went away from that 4-link. But probably the biggest problem I had too is I had carved and shaved my tires, and the back tires hooked so hard on that truck. It was incredible. And I just didn't get the slide going around that corner. It was kind of a goofy track. You didn't get a lot of speed. You couldn't get the slide out of it. I couldn't with that truck. And it went over.
So what happened? Did you sell that truck, or you said, I'm not going to let anyone touch it, I'm just going to scrap it? Or, you know, was that truck?
The front 4-link truck?
Yeah.
The front 4-link truck is not the one that rolled in New Orleans. That was Rob's truck. That was his chassis. Yep. Oh. So no, that the other chassis, I did work on. We did some more stuff to it. We changed it up a bit. Probably for 3 months or so, believe it or not, it had a Ford body on it. It was black, and it was still a Kodiak. And I ran into a situation where I had Dave Cook drove for me for a while, Cookie Monster, and he had the truck out in New York doing a bunch of dates. And Stanley Torgerson called, and he needed some trucks. So I got a hold of a motor and put a blower injector on and put that truck together, and ran a couple dates out in Iowa and Minnesota with it, and came back with it and really decided I did. As one guy owning 2 trucks, you might as well just run your head into the wall. I mean, there's not enough hours in the day. So I stripped the truck back down, pulled the motor and trans out. Gary Bauer ended up buying the body from me when he put his Nightmare back together, the fiberglass truck with the coilover shock trucks that he ran with us in the Point Series. And then the chassis, Paul Wickelman, in Indiana came up and bought it from me. He bought the frame, the transfer case in it, and axles, tires, wheels, that sort of thing. And he put I think he put a minivan body on it, and it was a Phantom Crusher for a while. And then I lost track of it. I don't know what happened to any of them.
So also, you had a couple of trucks underneath your entourage, I guess. And I mean, like the Kodiak Junior, the 48 inch, the one, and talk about also like the Shockwave and stuff like that. Yeah,
Sure.
Were you ever thinking about having a second truck on your team?
So the Shockwave was designed for another truck that we were going to run. My wife was going to drive that truck. It was going to be called Mistreated. And about the time we just about had it done, she announced to me that we were going to have a son, or at least a baby. So she was pregnant, and it was like, well, we're not going that direction right now. So at that point in time, we came up with a different name, which was the Shockwave. And one of the guys that helped me in the shop, Harvey, actually took the wheel of that thing for a while. And he ran that truck for a while. And then the junior truck, the 4-door crew cab, that was just a deal that I wanted to put together a street truck back in the day. And so I came across a set of 2.5 tons and a transfer case and actually a bunch of drive shaft ends and stuff. Ended up buying a really clean Arizona crew cab and put the truck together. Put a bunch of arch springs in it, had front and rear steer. I street drove that truck. It was a lot of fun. And
I know we're jumping all over the place and stuff like that, but another thing, I have little cliff notes. I came prepared.
Gotcha.
Thanks, Eric. Actually, one cliff note that I put on the start, because he gave me a pretty much a lot of timeline information, but I kind of followed through, was you were also in a unique group, brave enough to do the monster bus crushes.
Yeah.
Obviously Taurus was known for that, but other trucks were also known to do that too. What got you the idea to do that also? Because, people back then were, maybe nervous on doing the car crush or whatnot. So what got you to do the crush?
Sure. So that, where we crushed the buses that time, Eric should have a bunch of photos. And it was a home show. It was in Waukesha, which isn't far from us. We're in Waukesha County in Wisconsin here. And it was at the county fairgrounds. And it was a show that Rev had put together. And he had talked to me ahead of time. He says, would you be willing to crush some school buses? And I said, yeah, absolutely. So as some of you know, school buses don't usually crush too easy. So they had to go in and cut the tops open on them so that they would go in a little bit. They're pretty sound. So they just stacked some cars up, and he's like, you sure you want to do this? And I'm like, yeah, I don't care. We'll let her rip. And it was a pretty neat show. We really, for a leaf spring truck, we really pounded that truck that day. They had a stack of 10 cars, and we still got the photos of that. And we launched that thing over all 10 of those cars. And let me tell you, my chiropractor still loves that truck.
Now, and also, it's pretty cool that, you were one of the first also in the monster truck industry to involve the drop box. Profab and SCS are kind of the big drop box companies with monster trucks, with the 12, the now 24 inches dropping now. But what got you the mindset now in the early days to be like, okay, let's experiment with the drop box, and now it's been really successful?
Sure. Well, I got lucky because when I got the Pettibone axles that went under the second truck, the double stack blue frame, those drop boxes were on those axles. And I went and bought those axles. They were sitting in call it a heavy equipment salvage yard in Franklin. It's no longer there. It's now what the Franklin Industrial Park is. And those axles were literally laying out in their yard, covered. They had to dig them up. They were half buried. And I laugh now because I literally paid $1,000 for that pair of axles. And they're still underneath that big peak today. So
that's pretty cool.
It is.
And still also, someone also was mentioning in my clip notes also, they're saying that that double box truck, which one of the guys, Scott Bryant, was talking about how tall was number 2, the big double frame truck, because I do recall outside of that truck was the tallest one running with 66s, I believe, wasn't it?
Right. Yeah. It's funny. I read some of the comments on some of the Facebook groups at times, and some guys are like, "Man, the truck was really stupid." Well, it was stupid. It was stupid tall. It was ridiculous, but they still remember it, and they still remember it today. So it's just one of them things, that, again, back then, that was 1985. There was no textbook how you built it. You just threw stuff at it, and if it worked, it worked. Technology wasn't there yet. There wasn't a whole bunch of guys out there yet doing it. But that truck was probably, I'm going to say, somewhere around 14 feet tall, 14 and a half on tires. Because like I say, on the trailer, we had a custom built lowboy for it where it sat down around the tandems on the trailer, and literally the lights had to come off, everything. And I remember
you ran 73s with that too? Did you ever ran 73s?
I never ran 73s on it. No, never did.
Okay. All right.
Would have came a little closer to the fender wells.
Yeah, a little bit closer. But now we're going to jump maybe to, I was talking to you before we went on the air, and a little bit of story about the shortcoming, the short timeline of the Monster Wars era. We did talk about the rollover that you had with Gravedigger, but not a lot of people talked about, that genre, that short year when, United States Hot Rod or SRR came up with this idea of saying, we'll have monster truck racing with basically characters talking smack to each other. And you were one of the trucks that were a regular on that point series, but you didn't have a character. Right. You had the famous 6 trucks there. Everyone, if you go to YouTube, Monster Wars, you'll find the 6 trucks there, Carolina Crusher, Gravedigger, and all them. But now the story, how did they come to you and talk to you about doing this project?
Yeah, we were approached by US Hot Rod, and they it was after we got that truck done and we ran at Louisville, and I think they kind of opened their eyes like, hey, maybe this guy can run with these guys, and so on and so forth. And honestly, I was not interested in coming back racing full time. I had a shop we started. We were doing work. That was going well. I wanted to be home for my son, that sort of situation, and my wife. I didn't want to be traveling a whole lot like anything else. Being on the road, as you're away from family any long period of time, it's tough. It's tough to do. And it's not like nowadays where you get that airline ticket to fly in and fly back home. And we didn't have that luxury, dead of winter, we're pushing snow off the front bumper to get to a show or whatever we had to do. Yeah, I don't know. It's just one of them deals, we just ran with.
Now, did they offer you a character? They
did. So here's, I know Eric's probably got a picture of it. I'm sure he's got a copy of it. I do still to this day. Potentially, I'm thinking we'll be at the Hall of Fame this year if everything goes on. A lot of this country's been shut down, but we plan on going back to the Hall of Fame, and I'm sure Eric will have a booth. I'll be there with him, and I still have the rendering. They had 2 different renderings. One was done in a blue base colors, and the other one was in green, and it just looked like this big snow monster on the side of the truck. The reason it never came to pass was probably more on my part than theirs, because the other 9 trucks all had characters. But what I had going at the time is I had a guy locally that owned a bunch of McDonald's restaurants. And he was working with McDonald's. I was working with him, and we were working on putting a deal together. And he did not, nor did McDonald's, want anything to do with these characters. So I was caught in the middle and had to make a decision on what I wanted to do. Did I want to take some corporate money and a sponsorship, or did I want to do these characters? Well, the corporate sponsorship deal that would have happened with him never came to pass soon enough. So I got passed by as the character because I told them I can't do it yet. I can't commit to it. But they wanted me on the series. So we were in the series, obviously, but just could never commit to that character. And the McDonald's deal never did pan out, never came together. So.
Okay. So during that time period also, that's when talks between you and Rob on purchasing Rob's truck came about, correct?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. He, like anything, he had wife and kids and all that stuff. And again, I think he just, he had a good job in machine shop. And I think he just really wanted to stay home more and concentrate on that. And amen. family comes first, unfortunately, in some of these decisions. And, is it right? Is it wrong? It's whatever you want it to be. And if that's what you feel it needs to be, then that's what you do. And that's really what got me out of the business also.
Okay. So yeah, that's always a transfer over is, around the 95, then 94, 95, 96, well, 95 and 96, sold, or I believe you sold the truck to Tony Farrell.
Correct. Yep.
Maybe tell the story about that, and also talk about how cool to see that chassis still continue on to this day.
Yeah. So in late 95, it was right before Christmas. My son was going to be 4 years old. He was going to start school, and my wife and I had talks, and I was at the point where I was ready to get out of the monster truck industry and sell off. And a few of the guys knew it. Paul Schaefer knew it. Paul showed interest in the truck. But he told Tony Farrell, who was a former mud racer, and him and Paul were friends, and he said, you need to go up and talk to Mark. So Tony had called me probably a couple weeks before Christmas, and we started talking, and he goes, I'm interested in your truck. And I said, yeah. I said, that's great. I said, call me back in April. I said, I got my whole winter booked. I booked out with Main Attraction Promotions, Darnell's. And I told him, I said, I'm going to be in Texas the whole winter. I had a show in New Mexico and a couple in Louisiana. And that was it. I got to stay south all winter, January, February, and the beginning of March. And I'm like, this is like a dream schedule, right? And I never worked for the Darnells before. And I thought, yeah, let's do this. So I had already had contracts and booked dates, and I was ready to roll. And so Tony contacted me. He called me, and he said, hey, I'm interested in the truck, this, that, and the other thing. I said, yeah, call me back in April. I'm not interested in selling right now. And he called me back a couple days later. He goes, the only way Tony Farrell could say, Mark, this truck is killing. I got to come up and see that thing. And I said, well, you drive on up. Well, I'll be up there Saturday morning. So he shows up Saturday morning with his wife, and I look out the window heading down the shop about 9 o'clock, 10-2. Here he is, promptly sitting in my driveway idling. And I come down, and I had the truck in the shop. It was all tired up, ready to go. And he come in and look at it and looked it over, and we talked for a little bit. And he says, that's your Peterbilt trailer outside? I said, yeah. He goes, let's go take a look at that. So we looked at that, and I opened it up. He goes, all them the spare parts for the truck? I go, yeah, everything's in there. And he's like, my wife and I, we're going to go get a bite to eat. I'll come back. We're going to go get some brunch. I said, okay, I'll be here. I ain't going nowhere. I'm getting ready to go to Texas, right, in a couple of weeks. So he leaves, comes back a little while later, walks in the shop. I'm in there. He goes, all right, here's where we're at. He goes, I give you what you're asking for the monster truck. He says, you need to come up with a price for that Peterbilt trailer, all the spare parts, me to hire you back. We'll go run the dates as Kodiak down in Texas and everywhere. And at the end of the dates, you go home, I take my rig and go my way. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, sure. How's this going to play out, right? So I said, all right. I said, well, you head back home. I'll call you Monday morning. I'll let you know what I think. So I ended up going up the house, talking to my wife, and said, this is what the guy wants to do. And we sat down, talked about it. I called him Monday morning, and I said, Tony, this is where I'm at. I said, this is what I want. We agreed upon the price of the truck. This is what I want for the rig, the spare parts. You're going to have to hire me back for the 10 or 12 shows that we had. You have to hire me back to drive it. The name's going to stay Kodiak because that's my contractual agreement. And I said, the one thing we didn't talk about is novelty sales. I want my novelty sales. And he said to me, he goes, done deal. And I'm like, okay, done deal. And so I said, well, it's a done deal, but there's no Mark financing here. And he goes, no, I got this handled, man. Don't you worry about it. I'll call you back. And Tony was a character, man. We had a lot of laughs. He said, I'll call you back. And it was never goodbye. Wham! And you heard the phone slam down. And he calls me back about an hour later. He says, all right, this is what I need. I need your bank routing number, and I need your bank account number. And you'll have all that money by Wednesday. Okay. So I gave him the information. And Wednesday afternoon, for whatever reason, I call my bank, and I get the gal on the phone, and I said, hey, her name was Gwen. I said, Gwen, can you check my bank account? See if a wire transfer came in? She comes back to the phone. She's like, oh, man, what did you do? I said, Why? She goes, you got a lot of money there. And I go, is that right? She goes, yeah. What'd you do? I said, I sold my whole monster truck racing operation. She's like, you did not. I said, yeah, I have to go now because I'm going to go in the corner of the shop. I think I'm going to puke. Because I'm like, what am I going to do? So, yeah. So Tony bought it, and we went and did the dates. We had a lot of laughs, a lot of good times. Man, we did some stupid stuff. Tony was just a character. He was a good guy. He really was. I don't have a bad word to say about him. He was a good guy. Did he call
you about his Wild Thing idea?
He had told me that before he bought the truck. That was his idea. He was trying to get Oakley to sponsor him, and he was going to put big old wide sunglasses on it and make it like the windshield. I don't think Oakley ever did jump on board, but that was his idea and his scheme and concept, what he wanted to do. And I said, hey, knock yourself out. So, yeah.
But outside of that, I mean, seeing the truck still run, I mean, that's not on television a lot, but I mean, still in the monster truck industry, I know it's not scrapped. It's, I think it's still Wild Thing with Paul, but still seeing that truck still perform gotta at least make you a little bit happy that, you have history still.
Yeah. And like I say, the credit goes to Rob. Rob built a good truck. That was a nice chassis. That truck ran strong. We had to do a few things to axle housings. I bent them pretty good, actually, in Hampton, Virginia, at that show. We were broadsiding those cars with no dirt ramps, and there was no truss on the front of the housing. So we ended up bending the one housing and found that out when I parked it, and I got gear lube leaking out between the third member and the housing. So we built some new housings, and he helped me out with that. Actually, he cut some plates for me and did some stuff. And so, yeah, it was pretty cool. And, yeah.
So outside, this is going to pretty much be kind of one of my little timeline questions here. Eric actually brought this up, and it was funny because Mark and Tim was talking to me about this truck, the Milwaukee Iron.
Yeah.
Now that truck was mostly focused overseas, but the story behind that one, I think one of the guys on the Monster Truck then and now Monster Truck Collections had his hand on that. But what's the story? You had your hand on that Milwaukee Iron truck.
Exactly. Yeah. So Don might be watching tonight. Don Z. He lives over in Okauchee, not far from us here. In fact, he invited me out fishing. If you're watching, Don, I'm coming fishing. We're getting on that pontoon boat. And at any rate, he had a partner, Scott, and they built that truck, the Milwaukee Iron truck, and they ran it. They campaigned it, I think, for a couple of years. They did some stuff with Rev and whatnot. And then I believe they flipped the truck. And then at that point in time, I think their partnership dissolved. And at which point in time, Scott did not live that far from me. And I caught wind that he had that. He also had Rob's First Blood leaf spring chassis with the fiberglass cabin clip on it. And I believe there were still glass bedsides on that truck. And he had all the stuff sitting at his house. And at that same time, I had a guy contact me about buying the 89 leaf spring truck, the steel body truck, the one that we rolled at Slinger that had the 87 body on. And he contacted me about buying it, flew in from Colorado Springs, looked at it, went and looked at a couple other ones, called me back, said, yeah, I want to buy your truck. In the meantime, I sold it. I sold it to a guy in Indiana. So we got to talking, and he said, well, what I'm really looking for is, he says, I'd like to build at the time it was like a 94 up body style Dodge, bright Viper red with a flopper body and everything else. And I said, okay. I said, well, why don't I just build you what you want? He goes, well, if you can do that, let's sit down, talk money, and see if we can put something together. So I sat down, put a pencil to it, and I came up with a price, and I called him, and he said, yeah, let me talk to my partner. I think we're going to move forward on this. So he said, yeah, let's do this. So he flew in, I'll never forget this, on Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve day, and to sign a contract, give me a check down on this, and to get things rolling. He flew in, we sat down, we did the contract, and then he said, oh, by the way, I need this truck the end of February. And I'm like, you what? I'm like, how am I going to build a truck in 2 months' time, right? Plus, I still have my own truck yet. So I'm like, okay, yeah, we'll make something happen. We'll orchestrate this. Well, I got a hold of Scott because he had those two chassis sitting there. And the Milwaukee Iron chassis we took, made some mods on. I ended up getting a pair of Case ZF axles from Rick Buska in Illinois, who did a bunch of shows back in the day with Rev and stuff. And the truck, the beauty of it is they didn't want to crush cars with this truck. So I put a real light duty set of ZF axles in it. We put some traction bars on it, link bars, that sort of thing. We put a big block in it with a Turbo 400. That had, I believe, a short profab case in it. And then I flew down by George Link at the time, picked up the fiberglass body. And then probably the thing that took the longest time was building a complete skeleton framework inside the glass body and mounting it all and not so it wouldn't flex, so that the whole thing went up on hydraulics. And literally, I kid you not, it was 4:00 in the afternoon. The next morning, the guy was flying in at 6:00 to give me the final check, and the semi was coming to pick it up. Mind you, 4 days early. I was supposed to have till the 28th of February. He gave me he couldn't get a trucker. The only time you get a trucker was on the 24th to haul the thing out to Maryland to put in a shipping container. So that evening we're painting it and the paint bit. And we ended up having to strip the entire paint job off the truck. I called my paint lady at the time. I told her what happened. She goes, start sanding. Don't worry about it. I got you. I'll be there. She came back out with a bunch of epoxy primer, new paint, clear coat, everything. We literally finished up painting that truck at 2:00 in the morning. I think when he showed up at 7:00, I went to the airport to get him. The paint wasn't even thoroughly dry on it yet, guaranteed. But we just got it done in time, and he was kind of dumbfounded that we actually pulled it off and made it happen. So,
man,
pretty funny.
That is pretty cool about that. And speak about Rev, I think I'm learning. Me personally, I'm learning a lot more about this promoter. Obviously, from my bosses with Hall Brothers, but also with Rob, and also including you. And it seemed like he kept you guys extremely busy back in those days. And I guess it was pretty cool because you guys basically raced in 3 states. And it was, I guess, some fun times. It just seems like with Rev.
It was. I enjoyed working for him. Great guy. I mean, I enjoyed working with him. He did a lot of shows, a lot of fair dates between Illinois, Wisconsin, Indiana, some in Michigan, Minnesota, which was kind of great because honestly, we could go out, run a weekend. We might have a Friday show one place and a Saturday, Sunday another. And we were never more than 300-400 miles from home. So we were home every weekend. We weren't strung out on the road for weeks on end. So, but no, it was always fun. Rev was a fun guy. Always had fun doing shows with Hall Brothers, Rob, everybody. We had a blast back in the day. Guy was right there with us. In fact, I helped him on his first Aces high truck with the Pettibones and the 66s. He was in our shop.
There was a story. There's a story that the boss, Mark and Tim, were telling me about a stunt guy. I forget his name, but he did the stunt with a fire. He got fired on his suit, and he was walking around, and then he did a stunt where his brother was driving a car, and he's holding on for dear life. And the one story is that his brother put his suit in water, and when he was wearing it, he tried to lit the suit on fire, but he thought he was on fire, so he's running around like he's on fire, but the suit's so caught in water that the suit wasn't in fire. But it's hard for me to explain about the story, because then the other time he was telling his brother to go, 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 and his brother thought he was telling him, saying slow, 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 slow. So in the event, he was just slowing down and stuff like that. But another event, did you ever do the Great Lakes Dragway?
Oh, many times. Yeah, many times. Oh, Broadway Bob.
Mm-hmm.
Broadway Bob. And then actually when the new guys bought it too, Randy was the guy I was dealing with. I don't think Randy owned Mofoco. He also ran an alcohol funny car. I don't know that he still owns it anymore, but when Broadway sold out to those guys, he had a partner. Randy had a partner in it, I'm pretty sure. They didn't really have anybody doing anything. Rev didn't do shows with them there anymore for the most part. And they had called me and contacted me about doing a show. And they said, well, we need another truck. Well, I contacted Mark and Tim. So they actually came up and we did shows. And Rob did that quite a few times. Jimmy with Barbarian back in the day. He was there. Guy did a bunch of shows with us. We were all rev guys running all over the place all the time.
So let's fast forward to after you sold your monster truck operation to Tony, and you still had the fab shop, I guess you would say, and then you've been working on that ever since. Also, you've also been known for making some pretty good transfer cases. Talk about that stuff too.
Yeah. So right now, currently, I'm in the drivetrain business, and I did that stuff even when we were in the monster truck business. Still, when we had downtime and whatnot, I was always into drivetrain stuff, building custom differentials, transfer cases, all that stuff. And that's basically where we're at now. We're in a little town here, North Prairie, Wisconsin. Kind of really put a dot on the map for them guys. And my son and I, we have a family-run business. My wife takes care of all the office operations. God bless her. She's a wonderful woman. She puts up with a lot with me and Ryan. And Ryan runs his own business, his diesel business. He's heavily into the Duramax scene. You catch him at ryansdieselservice.com. There's a plug for my son. He does custom turbos. He's got in-house machinists. I'm still doing the drivetrain stuff. We're pretty well known for our transfer cases. And we also do a lot with YouTube guys. Josh with Truckmaster. We do a ton of stuff with him. We got projects going currently right now with him. That's really cool. Kyle with Rust Belt out of Ohio. We do stuff with him also. Dalton, Bertrand 850, JW Montoya in Georgia, Duramax Diesel, Rory out in California. We did a truck show here a year ago, and we really had an awesome turnout for first time around. We had Dyno here. And, I think anything that, like the monster truck business, once that disease is in your head and you're a gearhead, I don't think you ever get away from it. There's always cool stuff. But, what we do now with these Duramax trucks and stuff.
Uh-oh. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello, hello. Oh, come on. Let's see here. Just trying to, I guess something happened. I don't know. So, his battery died on his cell phone. And it's okay. I thought my service was all bad, and I was panicking a little bit because I thought my service was bad, but no, his phone died. So he's trying to get a plug right now to get back on. So trying to get that going on here. But fans, also while we're having time going off right now, we're having a episode that's coming up soon with a gentleman named Jay Lewis, and let's see his name here. Neil Vandenberg. If you guys ever heard about them, they designed basically the last 20 years every type of Monster Jam truck out there. They designed a lot with Hot Wheels back in when Hot Wheels had to deal with Monster Jam. They did a whole episode. So all you collectors and all you fans on that stuff, it'll be coming out soon, early September. And I think Mark is back on. So here we go. Hey, guys, everything all right?
Yeah, just a little technical difficulties called the battery died. I don't know why.
Gotcha.
The computer got really hot, but
I thought my my service went to crap too, and I was like, oh no. But
that's kind of where we're at nowadays. Like I say, we got the shop here. We've got a slew of employees and doing some really cool stuff. Check out those guys though on YouTube. Like I say, Truckmaster. You guys, if you're a gearhead, tune into him and see some of the stuff. We do a lot of videos with him. He does a lot of videos on his own. We got a truck build going with him right now that we're doing that will be really eye-opening when this truck is done. People are going to freak out. It was pretty much a bag of bolts, and it's going to be a really nice truck when it's done. I'm not going to go any further than that. You guys check in and watch him. Also follow him on Instagram too.
So do you also help even back then, even today? Do you have monster truck guys even informing you, seeing if you build transfer cases for them?
No, not really, because most of them guys are running SCS boxes or Profab or any of that other stuff. So no, not really. The only guy that really reached out to me was the guy that has my old truck, the Big Pete over in UK, but I was unable to find him a transfer case for that. He wanted a spare. But heck, if they ran it 32 years, it's probably got at least another 10 in it, I got to think.
So Scott Bryan wanted to know also, what kind of T-case and axles and diffs do you make now?
We're heavy into the Duramax scene, but I do Cummins stuff. I basically do everything. Any transfer case that's out there, we build. We probably got one of the best Duramax cases in the country. We do custom CNC and machining on the main shaft. We add extra bearings into it and all kinds of stuff. And again, Ryan, my son, being in the turbo business, he has some pretty fancy machinery right outside this gray door behind me. Haas CNC machines. And so I just pay him to machine the main shafts for me. His machinist does it. And as far as differentials, again, a lot of the 11.5 AAM differentials, that sort of thing. I do a lot of daily driver stuff. I got a lot of repair shops in the area that come to me because there's not a lot of people that do gear setting in this type of work. So it's kind of a specialized market. Do
you handle a lot of maybe the diesel pullers?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we sponsor some guys. One of the other guys in Josh's videos, the Truckmaster videos, the beard, he hangs out in the shop here. He's got a beard down to about his bottom of his belly. And he's got numerous Duramax trucks. And we built almost all the drivetrain in his. And Beard's kind of like our test muppet. We just like, hey, if somebody can break something, it's the Beard. So let's build something and throw it in the Beard's truck and let him take it out and pound on it and see if he can break it. So he's our R&D guy. Great guy, helps us out around the shop here all the time. So hats off to him.
Speaking about a shout out, Mr. Jerry Richmond wanted to say, hey, Mark, what's up?
Hey, maybe we'll meet for breakfast and go to Canada A and have some nice warm butter farts. I don't know what that is. and you might even get 2 cents thrown at you through a door. I don't know what that's about, too. And so will Mike Vodders if he's watching.
Buddy. And then the YouTube group, Truck Masters, I guess, they said thanks for the shout out. So
absolutely. Josh is a stand-up guy, man. Can't say enough good things about him and his wife. Good Christian people, man. Just awesome people. Served our country in the U.S. Army for 16 years. You guys got to give him a follow. And
since we went back to Jerry, there got to be some funny stories back in the day with Jerry, Mike, and even you guys, nice, clean, funny stories that won't.
Yeah, some I can tell, some I can't.
Yeah,
and we were doing a tour in Canada, and we were near the end of it, and it was Gary Bauer put it together, and Jerry was there for all of them, and at the end they added like another 4 trucks in, and Mike Vodders was one of them. So they show up at about, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. They traveled all night from somewhere. And he hadn't gotten a motel room yet. And he said to me, he goes, hey, man, can I go in and take a shower in your motel? I go, yeah, I don't care. So we're kind of sitting out in the parking lot by the rigs, but just outside the door. And he goes in to take a shower. And all of a sudden I hear him yell, hey, Pam, get me a towel. Hey, Pam, get me a towel. A couple of times he shouts it out. Well, she doesn't go get him a towel. He's in the shower. He needs to dry off. All of a sudden all I hear is, and he comes out wrapped in my shower curtain like it's some toga party. And he's like, I needed a towel. I need one now. And he walks out to his hauler with a shower curtain wrapped around him to get a towel out of his rig. I'm like, why didn't you just grab one off the wall? I didn't know if they were clean. So, yeah, there's some stories. Like I say, some are okay to tell, and some probably, we just got to leave them in the vault.
That's the way it goes. Sometimes also the rental car stories. And there's some that has to be in the vault, and there's some that you could probably talk about. So is there any in your arsenal, or they're all in the vault?
I was not behind the wheel on one of them, but the poor soul that probably bought that van brand new did not realize that both his exhaust manifolds were welded up by a weld shop, because let's just say the driver, and I'll leave him unnamed, he knows who he is, decided to turn where there was no break in the median, and we kind of launched a van through the air, and it cleaned off both exhaust manifolds on a Ford minivan. But that was quite interesting. And then we did during the Monster Jam, or whatever you want to call it back, the SRO with the Point Series, the Camel Mud Monster, I guess is the correct term back in the day. We were doing a show in Miami, and we had our rig there, and Carrie and I were getting hungry, and Ryan was young at the time. That had to be 93, 94. And I went up to, of all people, Richie Schaefer at the time worked for them, who's now with NHRA. And I borrowed his rental car. He let me take it. So I went to a Burger King. I found a drive-thru. Well, his rental car was a convertible Mustang, and the top was down. It's Miami, Florida. It's beautiful and warm, right? So I pull up to this Burger King, and we're ordering food, and I look, and there's like bars all over the window, everything. And I'm thinking, ooh, I'm not in a good neighborhood right now, right? I pull out, and as soon as I pull out, there's some guy next to me, completely blasted drunk, can't hardly drive. Gunshots are going off. My wife is ducking down in the passenger side. Ryan's in the car seat in the back of the car. She's trying to get him down. And I'm flat-footing this 5.0 Mustang all the way through back to the Orange Bowl, I believe we were at. Yeah, the Orange Bowl is in Miami, I'm pretty sure. And we got back there, and we had no bullet holes in us, nor did the cars. But, yeah, that was enlightening. And that night, I'll never forget it. The couple days prior to that, we were staying by Wayne Smolzanik down by his shop, and we all hightailed it out of there at about 80 miles an hour in our rigs all the way back up the interstate to Wayne's place that night after the show. None of us were hanging out down there. We got out of there.
Right. So I got a couple questions. We call them hard-hitting questions, which sometimes, I mean, one of the questions is pretty cool. So we're going to go with the first one. And the important question is what's your favorite pie?
I'd say it has to be apple, but coconut cream and banana cream is right there with them. I'm not sure there is a bad pie, though.
No. I even count pizza pie since it's a pie. But that question was from a gentleman named Brandon Culpepper Sr. up in New York. And the next question, we've been following. We have this little feud with the Christian and Phil Norman. Christian drives for Bigfoot, and his brother helped him crew. But are you for or against eggnog?
Oh, I like eggnog. If you get that mix just right with a little Corbel and a little nutmeg on the top at Christmas time or Thanksgiving, not bad. Give it a try, folks. It's good.
And the last one, we've been doing this for a while. I've been doing this for a while. And a lot of the guys that ran in the 90s and stuff like that always had a story about Ron Bachman. Do you have any stories about him, or what did you hear about him back in the day?
No, I don't have any stories on him. We never did any shows together. Good guy. Sad that he passed so young. He was actually at a World of Wheels show in Milwaukee here, probably, I'm going to say 5-6 years ago, with one of the foot trucks. And he was training a new driver. I don't remember who that was at the time. But they were there, and I walked up and talked to him, and he remembered who I was. I told him who I was, and we talked for a little bit, and just a great guy. I tell you, it's sad in that respect. You know, we're all getting up in age, and you hear about some of these guys passing away and whatnot, and it's definitely sad in that respect. But you know, and this year, I can guarantee you for sure we're going to be going back to the Hall of Fame this year, see a bunch of these guys. And Jeff did a great job over there with that. We've just, the last few years has just been a conflict with scheduling for us. Again, we do a lot of YouTube videos, and that week that was the Hall of Fame week, we actually had 2 guys here doing videos for like 8 days in the shop. And I was just unable to make it due to business. But this year for sure, and it'll be good to get back there. And like I say, I'd like to see a bunch of the guys Scott Hess and Steve Hess, and Steve's a great guy. Scott's a great guy. So yeah, it'll be fun to get back there. Mike Nichols, Mike Welch, he's a good guy. He's a character. I never met him, never did a show with him. And I met him the first year at the Hall of Fame, and he's like, man, I got to go somewhere and get a shirt. So I think we were over at Walmart. He was buying clothes that night because he had trucked in all the way from Washington and whatnot. But yeah, no, it's kind of good. And then the second year, Gary Bauer was here, and Gary and I did a lot of stuff together back in the day with SRO. We did a lot of events together, Ford Chevy stuff. Great guy. We always had fun. Gary and I had a ball all the time.
You know, and another thing that I always wanted to ask too is, did you ever get the itch of rebuilding one of your trucks for the Hall of Fame? You know, a lot of the people have been doing that recently. And
yeah, I tell you, there's a spark in me that wants to do that. But like anything, you move on in life and you do different stuff and whatnot. And yeah, I have interest in doing it. I don't have the time to do it, unfortunately. And everybody says, well, you got to make the time to do it. Well, that's easier said than done when you're running your own business and everything else. And, you know, I guess there's a season for everything, I guess is what you could say. And now Carrie and I, my wife, we're grandparents for the first time. We got a 2-year-old grandson. And in fact, he was over last night, and we go riding around the yard on the gator on the trails, and I just love that little guy. We can't get enough time together. So, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't seem like we ever have enough time in the day to get everything accomplished we really would like to do. But like you say, that it always interests me. I don't think, you know, I stayed away from shows for literally 5-6 years. I wouldn't go to a monster truck show after I sold out. I knew if I did, I'd be right back at it again. And it was just something that, I made a decision. When Carrie and I made a decision to have a family, and at that point in time, I made a decision that I needed to be there. I needed to be a father. I didn't need to be on the road. And so it was time to sell. It was time to move on, and that's what we did. Right, wrong, and different. I feel it was the right move. You want to be there for your kids as you're growing up. We also have a daughter, also Lindsay, and she's the apple of our eye. I mean, she's wonderful. We love her, and she's graduated college and doing well for herself. And my son is too. He's married, and like I say, it's just you move on in life. There's not always, you look back and go, yeah, I had a good ride. It was excellent, and I wouldn't change anything.
And then speaking about Mike, he said, looking forward to seeing you at the Hall of Fame. So he's getting ready to push that too. And is there any type of social media or anything that people can follow you at?
Yeah, we have Instagram, Kodiak Truck. And I'm obviously on Facebook. Our business is on Facebook also, Kodiak Truck. And obviously, hats off to Eric. He's the one that created the Kodiak Monster Truck Facebook page. I had nothing to do with that. In fact, he probably does more commenting than I do. I don't catch it all the time. And that's all him, man. So if you guys are enjoying that, you got to give thumbs up to Eric. He's the one that wanted to do that project, and he came up here, and I gave him, I don't know, quite a few photos, and they were pretty rough, some of them in photo albums. And he sat down, took the time to do it, and it was a lot of work. And I give him credit for that because, again, I didn't have the time to do it, but and thankfully he only lives about a little better than an hour away. So when we were going to do this tonight, I said, hey, how come you ain't up here? He goes, yeah, I thought about that. Maybe I need to drive up. I go, get up here. So you see him walk through the door.
Yep.
He must have drove fast too. I wonder how many tickets he got, because he said he wasn't going to be here till 7:30, and at 7:15 he walked in. So I don't know if he's got a high-speed driving award or not.
Yeah. Well, I don't know right now, but he's not on no news, so there was no car chasing going anywhere. So that's a good thing. We need him at the Hall of Fame, especially doing the RC stuff. So, and to the fans, to the people that still follow you. Obviously, Eric made helped out with the history of the Kodiak, and how do you I don't know how to put in the saying, but how people still know the Kodiak truck and still know, you're one of the few guys that when people talk about the Kodiak truck, know the driver. Like I always say, obviously Dennis Anderson, like I said with Gravedigger,
Sure.
Or, when you say Carolina Crusher, you think of Gary Porter. But when people say the Kodiak Monster Truck, they think of Mark Bendler. And how do you feel? To the fans and to the people that still think about your truck today.
Yeah, it's very humbling. I'll tell you what, when Jeff Cook called me and told me what he had going on at the Hall of Fame and said, man, you got to come this year, check it out. It was the first year. And I'm like, yeah, I'll come over, check it out and see what it is. And I'll never forget this. I walked through the door, Kerry and I did. I walked through that door. I wasn't in there 20 seconds and some young kid walked up to me and he said, you're Mark Bendler, aren't you? And I go, yeah. Kodiak, right? I go, yeah. He goes, will you sign this for me? And I started laughing. I'm thinking, man, I didn't even come with a Sharpie, so I hope you got one. Because I didn't think that people would want autographs or I didn't know what to expect, I guess is what I would say. And he's probably watching tonight. And that young kid was Chris Mermanis out in New York. And it freaked me out because I didn't, once you're out of this business for 20-some, 30-some years, I didn't think anybody would remember me. Other than the guys that I did the shows with and everything else. But these young kids, heck, half of them weren't born when I retired. So for them to know a bunch of this stuff and know every nut and bolt you had in it, they know more about my truck, I think, some of them than I do.
It's pretty crazy, and that's the cool thing that we try to do with the podcast in general is to bring everything together, the past, the present, even the future drivers of monster trucks.
Sure.
Try to bring everyone together in one. And I enjoy these episodes so much because of the stories that you have told and the ideas that you had building trucks. Today's trucks are I can't really say it in any way cookie cutter. It's you can order everything on the phone. Back in the beginning of this monster truck world, the way to build it was a sheet of metal, a torch, a welder, someone's stuffed backyard, and the a 1-ton Chevy pickup truck, or stuff like that. But just learning about everything and for me, I love these episodes because I learned so much. And also, I'm bringing back to the time period that I was a fan that got me hooked when I was a little kid. And I remember telling you stories. I saw you at Hampton Coliseum, and watching the shows and that. And I always say thank you to you guys because, without you guys, I wouldn't be here working for your competition. But with Mark and Tim, I go to work every day and don't miss a beat. So for me, thank you.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I appreciate that. And, you say competition, it was only on the track. Once we were off the track, it was family. If somebody needed something, there was always a guy that's willing to lend you parts to help you get through. Because we were all privateers back then. We were all just trying to make a living doing what we did, doing what we loved, basically that was it and whatnot. So yeah, it's definitely cool.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. So that's about it for the show, folks. If anyone, like I said, he's social media and whatnot, go ahead and hit them up. Also take a look at the Truckmaster YouTube page.
Absolutely.
I'll also take a look at the projects and stuff like that. Shout out to your son, Ryan. Take a look at his social media and also look at his projects too. And also, if you guys have a Chevy Duramax, even if you have a Cummins, Dodge or Ram truck, and you're near the Wisconsin area, hit Mark up.
Even if not, it's amazing. Josh is our best social media guy. We got people that come from all over the United States to come here now, and it's amazing. We're pretty well known for our Allison transmission bills and performance bills and all that stuff. So yeah, it's cool, but definitely watch Truckmaster. Like I say, we got a really cool project going right now. Josh is going to probably be back here in a few weeks, I'm guessing. And we got a truck we're building from the ground up, and they'll be amazed. And it's fun because, no, it's not a monster truck, but, you put your blood, sweat, and tears into this stuff to make it as nice as possible. And that's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, it's like I said, go check them out. It's pretty cool. Thank you, Mark. Also, thank you to High Octane Coffee, J Concepts, Back Channel Productions, 6B Apparel for these new uniforms. Thank you. Below the Collar, that's our T-shirt company. $20 basically for a T-shirt. Below the Collar on our Facebook page. Go ahead and take a look at that. JBCL Graphics, officially licensed RC decals of Bigfoot, Obsession, Bad Habit, Against the Grain, and other monster trucks in general. And also Marty Garza and his Monster Truck Technology book. Thank you for Marty for that. Mark, are you thinking about getting that book or?
I haven't got it yet. No, but I should probably order a copy of it. That's for sure. I think you talked about drop boxes in there. Somebody told me that. I think Eric's got a copy of that, if I remember right.
It's good. Yeah, go ahead. I need to buy it. I haven't bought it yet because by the time I'm online trying to get the book, it's already sold out, and I gotta wait, for when that comes about. You know how it goes.
Sure.
But once again, Mark, thank you for being on. It was awesome for you to tell the stories, the history of your trucks, and what you do today. And once again, thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank everybody for watching. God bless America. Bless our country. Bless our president. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. So I'll do the ending here. Like I said, Brad always says, keep the shiny side up and the rubber side down. Thursday will be Carl Van Horn, from Sun Impact Racing and Monster Jam. And then I will let you know next Tuesday's guest. And he is a pretty popular driver. Also, another Kickin old school. All I have to say is he was the 1989 TNT champion. And I finally got him on. So he will be on next Tuesday. So like Brad said, keep the rubber side down, the shiny side up. Have a good night. See ya.